joining us from. My name is Sally, and I am from Link Tourism. I am the Australian-based travel trade representative for Okinawa Tourism. I will be joined today by Naomi Allen from Scoot, who's going to give you an update on the airline and their new service to Okinawa as well. But first, I'm going to take you through a bit of Okinawa's traditional culture. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognize their continuing connection to lands, waters, and communities. I am based here on Gadigal, Sydney, and I pay my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present here in Gadigal and from wherever you may be joining us from. So Okinawa, as you will know if you've joined me for episodes 1 through 3 of this series, is an incredible island prefecture with lots of great cultural activities and outdoor activities. And today I'm focusing on its heritage from the Ryukyu Kingdom. Okinawa does have a very rich cultural heritage that's all its own from a time when the prefecture was its own island nation known as the Ryukyu Kingdom. In the 15th century is when the Ryukyu Kingdom was founded, and it thrived for about 250 years, 400 years through trade with China, Korea, and Southeast Asia. And then it became part of Japan during the Meiji era in the mid-1800s. I'm going to take you through a bit of the different cultural activities and art forms that you'll find throughout the islands as ways that you can enhance your clients' next visits to this region. One of the most popular things to see when you're in Okinawa is its incredible musical culture. The sanshin is Okinawa's traditional instrument. It's a three-stringed banjo, as it were. And this was what was featured in pretty much all royal court performances. It would be performed at banquets to welcome Chinese envoys. It would be played when visiting the Satsuma fiefdom and the Edo shogunate of Japan, because of course Ryukyu did trade with Japan as well. And sanshin collaborations with other instruments such as taiko and paranku are also often seen. So on the right here, you see those taiko, those traditional Japanese drums, but a bit of a smaller, more localized version that Okinawans can carry a lot more easily. And if you've joined me for my previous episode about year-round seasonal events, you would have known that Eisa is often done in the summer and uses these instruments here. One of Okinawa's performing arts is called kumi odori. This began in the 1700s when there was actually a specific dance magistrate appointed by the royal government of the Ryukyu Kingdom. And this magistrate, who was known as Chokun Tamagusuku, created kumi odori by blending performing arts of the Okinawa Islands and the Japanese mainland with Ryukyuan legends. Originally, this was created for entertaining Chinese envoys, and it consists of 3 main elements. There are spoken lines in Japanese and the language used by the royal government. There's classic Ryukyuan music and singing, and Ryukyuan dance. You can also see Ryukyuan dance and in other performances. There are 3 main types of dance that fall under the umbrella of Ryukyuan dance. There's the traditional dance, Zo dance, and creative dance. So kumi odori is considered one of the traditional dances. And then Zo dance was one that became more popular after Okinawa became part of Japan, which captures a bit more of like the feeling of common citizens as opposed to this more royally focused style. And then the Ryukyuan dance was also designated a national important intangible cultural property in 2009. You can also see Okinawan plays when you visit, which are known as Uchina Shibai. And these are believed to have originated in the late 1800s, around the time that Okinawa became part of mainland Japan. These also depict a bit more of the custom and history of the masses, and they are performed in theaters. Folk entertainment is a great way to kind of get to know the people and the culture of Okinawa as well. So I mentioned briefly Eisa, excuse me, earlier. And it was mentioned in another episode previously. And this is definitely one of the premier types of folk festivals to experience. Aesa festivals tend to happen in summer, roughly between June and August. Um, There, the peak, as it were, is typically in the Obon festival. So if you know much about Japanese mainland culture, you may know that Obon is a holiday where families honor their ancestors. And in the mainland, this is usually celebrated in mid to late August based on the solar calendar, but Okinawa calculates it based on the lunar calendar. So it's actually held in mid-July in Okinawa. So mid-July tends to be one of the best times to see an ASA performance. Another common thing that you'll see in Okinawan festivals is lion dancing. This is one of those things that also has been brought over from Chinese culture and incorporated into the local culture. And I'll talk a little bit more about the Okinawan lions in a little bit too. There are a number of traditional events, and I'm not going to go too much into these because, again, I have just done a whole episode all about the different events that happen throughout the year, throughout the prefecture. But just a couple that I wanted to call out as particularly, I think, visually striking and representative of this local culture are the Hari or Hare dragon boat races, which take place again in the summer, generally between May and June, and then the Great Tug of War festivals, which are just these absolutely enormous ropes that literally they have people stand on. They're that large. Definitely a sight to behold. Outside of events and stuff, if we start to get into the arts and crafts of traditional Ryukyuan culture, Okinawa does have its own unique style of pottery known as yachimun. Again, if you attended that events episode, you would have learned about the Yachimun Pottery Festival. So this is a little bit of a tautology, Yachimun meaning pottery, of course, but specifically it means Okinawan style or Ryukyuan style pottery. And this is then further split into two main styles. There's arachi, which is the more subtle style of pottery that is quite practical, and joyachi. Joyachi is more artfully glazed, more bright colors, and these can be anything from casual tableware to works of art. It's certainly a great thing to pick up a bit of yachimun on a trip to Okinawa to bring home as a memento and use as a featured piece on your table or as a decoration around the house. And you can visit workshops where you can make your own as well. I promised I would come back to Shisa, and this I think flows on well from the Yachimun because so many of them are stoneware and ceramicware. So these are guardian lions that tend to guard rooftops and entrances. They are derived from the Chinese guardian lions, but the Shisa is one that is specifically very strongly associated with Okinawa. You'll see them usually in pairs, often at the entrance to a home, the same way that in mainland Japan you'll find them at entrances to temples. But also you'll sometimes find them on rooftops and just scattered around the walls and as general decorations. These are also a very popular souvenir, and painting your own Shisa figurine to give it your own style of colors is definitely a popular activity that's great not just for kids, but for adults as well. Ryukyu glass is another product and style that is very highly acclaimed throughout Japan. The glass production in Okinawa began in the Meiji era, so that was between about 1868 to 1912. And the current style of Ryukyu glassware was established about 50 years later. So, due to a shortage of resources after World War II, craftsmen would collect discarded glass bottles from bases and elsewhere, melt them down, and reuse that glass. And by in particular, utilizing these multicolored glass bottles, they've created this distinctive, colorful texture that characterizes Ryukyu glassware. If you go into shops along Kokusai Dori, which is that main shopping street in downtown Naha, you will find just shelves and shelves and tables full of this iconic Ryukyu glassware. They're great to bring back as drinking glasses, especially if you love awamori. Why not pick up a Ryukyuan style glass to go along with it? But they make decorations and other plates and tableware as well. And here again, there are some workshops that do offer glass blowing experiences for visitors too. Okinawa is also known for its textiles. It has a very different style to mainland Japan. The Ryukyu style is very strongly imbued in the local culture and arts. Okinawa does have 16 nationally designated traditional crafts, and 13 of those fall under the category of textiles. So it's actually one of the regions in Japan with the most prominent textile culture. Bingata is one of the most well-known dyeing styles. So this is what you can see in these images here. Usually it incorporates really vivid colors on natural fabrics. This is quite in contrast to mainland Japan because colors in mainland Japan fabrics tend to be a little bit more on the subtle side, kind of like that lower picture or the pictures on the right. But that especially the really vibrant, the yellows and pinks and oranges and bright blues is something you see very much within Okinawa. But if you do like something a little bit more subtle, depending on which region of Okinawa you're in, there are these more slightly more subtle or at least more less vivid colors, I suppose, styles in the woven fabrics as opposed to the dyed ones as well. There's a place in Naha City called the Chinen Bingata Laboratory that is introducing new Bingata methods and artworks while preserving traditional techniques. So this is definitely a place to visit if you'd like to learn more about the textiles. Another great craft in Okinawa is its lacquer. The Ryukyu lacquerware is a unique craft that evolved during the Ryukyu Kingdom era, so that's going back to the 15th to 18th or 19th centuries. And this incorporates, again, techniques that are introduced from China. And it turns out that Okinawa is actually an ideal place for lacquerware production. They have some incredible local hardwoods which resist warping and cracking, a stable base, then strong sunlight, which brings out the rich colors of the lacquer. It's also known for its distinctive decorative style, which often features raised or incised motifs as opposed to just being painted on, which is what you more commonly find in mainland Japan. Generally, traditional Okinawan houses or Ryukyuan houses are surrounded by coral and limestone walls that are built to withstand typhoons. The houses feature red roof tiles that are securely attached with plaster to keep strong winds from ripping them loose and often decorated with the Shisa guardian lions. Inside, you do find somewhat similar structure sometimes to mainland Japanese houses. There are tatami mats. There's often a engawa or porch that's open air, sliding doors and such, separated rooms where that you can open up by use of these sliding doors. There'd be different entertaining areas and cooking areas and sleeping areas. The Nakamura House is one of the traditional houses that was built in the mid 18th century that you can visit, and it is an important cultural property. So great for accessing a little bit of that Ryukyuan heritage. It's a large estate that belongs to a family that worked as government administrators, and it's quite notable for its combination of styles. So it has some of that sort of samurai style and then the more traditional local farmhouse style. A great example of the fusion that you can also find here in Okinawa. Now, getting into a little bit about Okinawan history, again, during the 15th to 18th century, Okinawa flourished under the Ryukyu Kingdom. The golden age of the Ryukyu dynasty did span approximately 450 years, and it was prosperous trade with the neighboring countries, such as China and Japan, that gave rise to this unique sort of fusion culture. You'll see this in Shurijo Castle, which is a World Cultural Heritage, UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. Shurijo Castle, or Shuri Castle, as it can also be called, was the seat of the Ryukyu Kingdom, the political and cultural center. It is absolutely a must visit, as it is this sprawling castle park with different gates and ramparts and multiple buildings. The Seiden main hall in the center of the castle complex is currently being restored after a fire destroyed it in 2019, and it's expected to reopen this autumn. But you can still visit the rest of the castle grounds, and it is still absolutely an excellent cultural immersion experience. If you're into a bit more of that traditional history and the local civil wars that would have occurred, consider visiting some of Okinawa's myriad castle ruins to immerse yourself in more of the Ryukyu history. These are a few which are also designated UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Nakijing Castle was the second largest castle after Shurijo back in its heyday, and it's now known for its cherry blossom festival from late January to early February. Zakimi Castle, which you see on the bottom left there, was a powerful hilltop stronghold built in Yomitan, and it features some of the most sophisticated stonework among all of the castles in Okinawa. If we go up to the top right to Katsuren, this was another hilltop castle overlooking the seaside of nearby Minamihara fishing port. And maybe it's the proximity to the port, but this is often compared to a stone ship due to its imposing structure. And this castle is tied to the legend of Amawari, who was a folk hero in Ryukyu, and his queen Momoto Fumiagari. The last castle ruin I've featured here is Nakagusuku, which holds the legacy of being of one of the Ryukyu Kingdom's greatest commanders, Gosamaru. And Gosamaru built Nakagusuku Castle to defend against attacks by Lord Amawari of Katsuren Castle, which you see here. So visiting some of these castles in tandem is a great way to really get to know a bit of that story of the Ryukyu Kingdom. There are some other UNESCO World Heritage Sites throughout the prefecture. The Tama Udun Mausoleum is the final resting place of the royal family of the second Sho dynasty of the Ryukyu Kingdom. It was built in 1501. Tours of the mausoleum are conducted in Japanese on the third Sunday of odd-numbered months. So for visiting this, we do recommend hiring a guide or perhaps bringing along one of the Google Translate devices that can just pick it up and translate through as you conduct the tour. Whether you want to hire a device or just use your mobile phone, either is easy. The Sonohyan Utaki Stone Gate is located outside a sacred forest known as Sonohyan Utaki, and I'll come to Utakis in a little bit, but this is located on the grounds of Shurijo Castle. This was built by the third king of the second Sho dynasty in 1519, and Sonohyan Utaki was used as a prayer spot by the king to pray for a safe journey when he left the castle. This forest was also the location of the inauguration ceremony to appoint a new Kikoe Okimi high priestess. So Utaki are important prayer spots, and one of the most sacred is Sefa Utaki on the bottom right. Don't worry, I'll come back to Shikinaen. But Sefa Utaki is considered the most sacred natural place. This is a place where the leaders of the native faith here were all women, and at the time, access to the site was strictly off limits to men, with the exception of male members of the royal family. There are dense forest and rugged rock formations, and it's a place where nature itself is worshipped as divine. Today, it is open to all travelers, but as it is such a sacred place, it's recommended that people conduct themselves respectfully, stay quiet, don't wear anything too revealing. It is ultimately a religious site. The last place I'll highlight on our UNESCO sites is Shikinaen Royal Garden. This was constructed towards the end of the Ryukyu dynasty in 1799 as a villa for the royal family of the Ryukyu Kingdom. Of course, you could experience entertainment here if you were close enough with them, but it also played an important role in diplomacy. At the time, China had a huge influence over the kingdom, and whenever a new king took the throne, the Emperor of China would send envoys to formally authorize their ascension, and on the occasion of these visits, large banquets were held at Shikinaen to host the envoys. Last but certainly not least, karate. So in Japan, karate is known as Heiwa no Bu, or the martial art of peace. And around the world, it's practiced by more than 130 million enthusiasts. But what you may not realize, or maybe you do, is that Okinawa is the birthplace of karate. So the martial art here is deeply rooted in the history and tradition of the islands. Here, the most senior members have actually been recognized by Okinawa Prefecture as intangible cultural asset holders in the field of Okinawa karate and martial arts with weaponry. There are a few different styles of karate that have evolved over the years, so not all karate is necessarily as directly tied to Okinawa. There are a few different schools, but there are many schools in Australia that do practice karate that is directly descended from the style that you can find in Okinawa. And visiting, say, the Okinawa Karate Kaikan, which opened in 2017, is a great experience. This is where they tend to hold international karate tournaments and seminars. So if you have clients who are into martial arts, consider visiting this facility or one of the dojos that is open to international visitors. So thank you so much for listening along to some of my Ryukyu culture and tradition and history. Here are my details. If you want to get some insight about how to piece these together into an itinerary, please do reach out. I'm now going to hand over to Naomi from Scoot to give you an update on the airline and their brand new service to our incredibly rich destination, Okinawa.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Sally. Sorry, I do apologise. I'm having some tech issues, so bear with me. I hope this will work. Okay, so I'll get straight into it now. So for those that don't know, my name is Naomi Allen. I am the sales manager here based in Australia. And today I just want to give you a little bit of an update on Scoot and yes, the fact that we are now flying to Okinawa. Start off with a little video, just bear with me. Sound. Okay, so for those that don't know much about Scoot, so we're about 14 years old. We had our first flight from Singapore to Sydney back in 2012. And from there, we have carried over 80 million passengers around the globe. We have about 2,500 employees. So we're quite sizable in that regard. For those that aren't aware, but most of you probably are, we are the sister of Singapore Airlines. So when a passenger comes to you with some concerns about traveling on a low-cost carrier, the one key thing to take away today is please let them be assured that we are part of the Singapore Airlines group. And with that comes along, we have the same sort of standards of crew training, maintenance, safety standards, etc. So one key thing to keep in mind. So we now fly to over 80 destinations across the world. Another misconception with low-cost carriers is that we fly the older aircraft that the full-service carriers no longer want. At Scoot, that's not the case. The average age of our aircraft is actually under 7 years of age. And we do have 3 different types of aircraft families, which I'll touch on in a moment. The other key important message that I want to sort of let you guys know about is to remind you that we do allow 10 kilos of carry-on baggage, which is 3 kilos more than most other low-cost airlines. And we're also not that sort of airline that will walk around the boarding gate with mobile scales. So something handy to keep in mind. Okay, so the 3 types of aircraft that we have, as I say, so we've got our Dreamliner, so our Boeing 787. So you'll find that on our long haul routes, and all of our flights out of Australia, so out of Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, will be on our Dreamliner product. And I'll touch more on what products are on that aircraft in a moment. We've also got our Airbuses, our 320 and 321s. That is important to know because that is the aircraft that services our flights to Okinawa. Also, our new baby on our family is the Embraer. So that one, joined our family 2 years ago. And that has really opened up a lot of destinations in Southeast Asia, a lot of the smaller airports, but it's also freed up our other aircraft, our Airbuses, to enable us to service places like Okinawa. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of our destinations. As I said, we are still growing. There will be new destinations coming this year, but let's focus on Okinawa. So, okay, as I mentioned before, we began flying to Okinawa in December last year, so relatively new to the Scoot family. And currently we're flying out of Singapore 3 times a week, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. From April, pleased to announce that we will be adding another service to Okinawa, which will be 4 weekly with the inclusion of Thursdays. So as I mentioned, we do fly out of Perth, Sydney and Melbourne on Scoot. So we're double daily out of Perth and Sydney and 10 times a week out of Melbourne at the moment. We do offer some really good connections via Singapore, as I said, but also to note, if there is a longer layover, we do suggest why not break up the trip and give your clients a stopover in Singapore, or if the connections are great in one direction and not the other, really combine your Okinawa trip with other mainland Japan. And that's what we think Australians will probably want to do, is do a bit of Okinawa, but also mainland Japan. So we do fly out of Tokyo, Sapporo and Osaka as well. Okay, so how can you book Scoot? So there are quite a number of different ways that you can. So we do have an online agent portal. So that basically will give you access to our tactical fares, so whenever we're on sale, but it allows you to have sort of a seat-only product and then add on the extras that your clients want. So with that one, it is, as I said, online. And if you don't have a login, please reach out to me. You can also book that via an API connection if you've got an aggregator within your business. We do have there also Scoot Plus, which is our premium cabin on our Dreamliner product. And you can book that again via the agent portal, but you can also book that via GDS as well. So in your GDS, it's sort of the second way or third way how you can book Scoot. If you are booking the economy cabin in your GDS, one key message here is to let you know you are booking an all-inclusive product. So everything in the GDS will always include 30 kilos of baggage, a meal and a beverage, and the 10 kilos of carry-on. The only difference with the GDS is that we don't load our tactical fares into that system. For agent support, we do any bookings made via our portal or via GDS. We do have a dedicated team that sit in Singapore and are there to help you with any issues that may arise. Or you can book us via our big brother. So we do work very closely with Singapore Airlines, and we are one big happy family. So you can book SQ through to Okinawa, which will be then on the Scoot aircraft. So what does this allow? It allows seamless check-in. It's all on the one ticket. The bags will be through checked to the endpoint. There's a hot meal and a beverage included as well on Scoot. The passengers will get a comfort pack if the flight's longer than 4 hours. And then they get the same baggage allowance as well that's on the SQ ticket. There's also re-accommodation. So if there's a flight delay on either airline, SQ will absolutely work on the ground to ensure that the passengers get through to their end destination. The key things to note if you are booking SQ that includes a Scoot flight, please ensure you place the passengers' dates of birth into the PNR. If you do not, it won't let you to go online or to manage booking on Fly Scoot and do a seat selection. We also suggest that you pre-select a meal option for your passengers as well. There's just a greater variety online versus, they'll still get their meal on board if you don't select, but there's just better, as I said, more variety and a guaranteed option. All right, so quickly touching on what is on our aircraft. So this is our Scoot Plus cabin. So this is our Dreamliner aircraft. As I said, so all flights out of Australia will have this product on board. It is our premium cabin. So I liken this to a domestic business class product. As you can see there, it's got the wider seats, extra leg room. They get the 30 kilos of baggage. They get the priority boarding, etc. So this is a really good option for your clients if they're wanting that little bit more luxury. Also on our Dreamliner, we've got a few different options of seating as well. So it's not just our standard seat that you can sell on to your clients. You can look at our Scoot in Silence zone, which is it's a section it's a part of the economy cabin that sits just behind Scoot Plus. There are no children under the age of 12 permitted in this portion of the cabin. So that's the bottom left picture there. It's extra leg room and also adjustable headrests as well. We also provide super seats. So this is the first 3 or 4 rows behind the bulkhead sections of our aircraft. And again, it's a couple of dollars more to upgrade to that seat from a standard seat. It's definitely worth a couple of dollars. Give your clients that little bit more leg room. We also have our stretch seats as well, so our bulkhead seating, which you can pre-book, and our stretch seating is also available on our A320-21 aircraft, which is our aircraft through to Okinawa. So with the A320, it is just an economy cabin. There is no Scoot Plus, but it is a 3-3 seat configuration, so you can book those extra leg rooms as well. Okay, so on our aircraft, we do not have in-flight entertainment, but we do have a QR system which so your clients can scan that and they'll have access to our flight map. They can also browse our cafe and our duty-free catalogue, and they can also purchase Wi-Fi and seat power, etc., via that app as well. Okay, so quickly, just some pointers to share with you. So once a PNR is ticketed, there are no name changes permitted. We are a little bit different as well with using our titles of Miss and Master. It can only be used for kids under the age of 12, or else our system will have a little bit of a hissy fit. So please only utilise those titles for children. Ensure all GDS bookings have dates of birth in the PNR. So that way they can go on to manage booking, or you can, and book the meals in for them. So seats, meals, etc. can be purchased via managed booking at Fly Scoot. So that is also applicable for SQ bookings, as I said. You'll just need to utilise the Scoot PNR, which is an SSR in your PNR. You just need, of course, I don't need to purchase them if it's on SQ. You just need to choose the meal. Okay, so KrisFlyer points, we all love a loyalty program. So you can earn KrisFlyer points when travelling on Scoot, and you can also redeem them as well. One other key message is please do not go into a ticketed booking to quote a change. Even if you back out, our system's already gone into change mode. You'll think your booking's fine, but our system will have a balance owing, and your passengers will be asked to pay that at check-in. Now, we do have a process in place which is negating that issue, so hopefully that won't occur, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. And if you do have any questions about that, please reach out to me after. Okay, last of all, so some handy travel tips. So purchase whatever you can in advance. Whilst you can buy things on board, it just makes your clients flight a lot smoother if everything's already there and they don't have to search for cash or a credit card. As I said, we don't have in-flight entertainment, so bring along your own device with downloaded content. Now, we don't have free flow water on board. Yes, we're a low-cost carrier, and that's how we have really cheap fares through to Okinawa. So what I suggest, and it's just a helpful tip, is bring an empty water bottle through security, fill it up at the gate before you jump on the plane. And if you're going through to Okinawa, as I said, your bags will be through checked all the way through. So they don't need to collect them in Singapore. And that is it from me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nay. It's great to know what the deal is with Scoot and how agents can book this and all those helpful little tips. I know we're always really appreciated. All right. Real quick then, does anyone have any questions for either myself or for Nay? You can pop them into the chat box or into the Q&A function. I haven't seen any come through as yet. Just one request to watch the recording again later. Yes, this webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our Okinawa Trade Resources page, so you can catch up, you can share it with your colleagues. You'll get my details through that, and if Nay's happy with it, I can also put her details into that follow-up email so that you can all get her details that way as well for all of your Scoot questions. Beautiful. All right. Well, no questions have come through, but if you are thinking up any, please at any time do reach out to either myself for anything Okinawa or for Nay for anything